Hey there, everybody. It is me. And even though I'm only going to be here for a short period of time, every second is one more second that gives us opportunity to stand in solidarity for safety, for peace, and for justice. For who? For all. These 12 days of Christmas, haven't they been something? This accumulation, this storytelling from Kwanzaa, from Las Posadas, from Hanukkah, from the things that we have been, just at Christmas, the things that we have been focused on, traditions of others, and hopefully we're learning a lot. Today, I wanted to hop on because yesterday ended the 12 days. And remember, that got us to 364 total gifts given during that 12-day period of time, which meant that today would have been 365. What is today? A whole new season. This is when it is considered okay to take your Christmas tree down, to take your decorations down, because we are officially shifting out of Christmastide into Epiphany. What is an epiphany? Have you ever had one? That aha, that awareness, that manifestation? Well, the actual formal day of Epiphany, which is today, January 6, 2026, Epiphany is the day that is considered the day of the king. So, I had to get out here as the regal royals out here in these streets. Hey, kings, hey, queens, hey, princes, hey, princesses. Want to let you know that you matter, because Epiphany is about when the Magi came and found the Christ child. And if we know, as the story goes, as history documents, regardless of religious belief or tradition, we know that Herod wanted to make sure that the Christ child was killed. And the Magi were actually supposed to help him get that done. But an angel appeared unto the Magi. Now, this is separate from the shepherds that were there at the manger. The Magi's had a much further journey to travel. So we know the northern star is important, as well as the eastern star. And when the Magi followed the star, they ended up also being disrupted, interrupted, enlightened by that Archangel Gabriel, who made sure he is on his job. He is the archangel that delivers messages. And he let them know, don't you go back after you deliver that frankincense, that gold, and that myrrh. Don't you go back and tell the king where you found the Christ child, which is what they initially said they were going to do. So they didn't. They followed the voice of the angel. At this time, history would dictate that Jesus would have been probably just about 2 years old. So Epiphany, even though it ends the 12 days of Christmas, it also is a day that pushes pause and celebrates the theophany, or an appearance, a manifestation, an epiphany, an enlightenment, an awareness. Those are things that an epiphany is. And so we've moved out of Advent, the anticipation, and now we have shifted into this day of enlightenment. So today, I want you to reflect. Have you been enlightened? Was there an awareness that you received today, different than you have in the first 5 days of this year? Because this is day 6. So day 6, also that day of creation, where all the cattle, all the beasts of the field were created, but also male and female created he them. So on January 6th, and sometimes because of the difference between the Gregorian and the Julian calendar, there can be this 13-day difference. So in some areas geographically, Epiphany occurs on January 19th versus the 6th. But in Western Christianity, it is on the 6th. It is considered the King's Day. And it is also considered the day of the Magi. It is considered Epiphany, but it is one day. It's also considered the baptism of the Lord, the culmination of the nativity of Christ. So what is different than Christmas is this day, this Epiphany, not only takes us into a new liturgical season, but it also represents different times of Christ's life. First, the time that the Magi would have found the Christ child and bore the gifts. Secondly, it also represents the baptism of Christ. So the theophany, being the Word, was made flesh and dwelt among us. So John the Baptist, as we know historically, Elizabeth and Zachariah's son, would have been Jesus's cousin and was the one who baptized him. So the baptism is also represented on this day that is referenced as Epiphany. And not only the baptism, after the baptism, we know there was this 40-day period where the temptation occurred between Christ and Satan. But then after that, we see what is recorded in many places as the first miracle at the wedding in Canaan, where the water was turned into wine, and that representation of water and blood being reflected on the cross. So Epiphany looks at all of a culmination of all of these things, which is why I really wanted to pop on and at least be able to give some little contexting around it. And I wanted to read specifically the traditional date for the feast is January 6th, but since 1970, the celebration has been held in some countries on the Sunday after January 1st. So depending on when January 1st occurs, that could change that day to not always be the 6th. And then also wanted to give that notation that in the Eastern churches, following the Julian calendar versus the Gregorian, that 13-day difference, then Epiphany would be celebrated and will be celebrated on January 19th. So it's the culmination. It's considered the 12th night. So in some places it's celebrated what would be last night, where I am geographically right now, or the end of that 12th day of Christmas, which we now know the 12 days of Christmas were put in place because when the Catholic Church was unable to worship freely, then they created stories. Well, one of the places that Epiphany is considered to be recorded is in the book of the Maccabees. And we know that then that takes us back to Hanukkah. So we start seeing some interwovenness between the traditions that we have been looking at for over the past month, 45 days or so. So from an etymology standpoint, and those of you who know me, I really love getting into the etymology of things. And if I create a word and someone says that isn't a word, I say, well, it is now. So don't be afraid. All words started somewhere, right? So the etymology of Epiphany, from a Greek perspective, epiphania does mean manifestation or appearance. So as you look at that, and as we look at the manifestation of God in Israel as recorded in the 2nd Maccabees 15 and 27, in the New Testament we see in 2 Timothy 1 and 10, and we also see in the Gospel according to St. John chapter 1, in the beginning was the Word was with God, and the Word was God, and that Word became flesh and dwelt among us. And we can't stop there, because Epiphany also is referencing the fact that Christ came to the Gentiles, because he came unto his own, and his own received him not. So a lot is going on in this day. So I really needed to pop on and let you know that it's a once-in-a-year date. It is a shift that actually concludes, a formal conclusion of our Christmastide season the end of these traditional celebrations, the end of Hanukkah, the end of Las Posadas, the end of Kwanzaa, the end of Christmas, and now even the end of the 12-day tradition. So let me end with that 12th day to just give you some of what we have done, right? So on day 1, we got 1 gift. On day 2, we got 3. On day 3, we got 6. On day 4, we got 10. On day 5, we got 15. On day 6, we got 21. On day 7, we got 28. On day 8, we got 36. On day 9, we got 45. On day 10, we got 55. On day 11, we got 66. And on day 12, we got 78. And when we add up those gifts, because how do we get to that? So then we get to our 364. Why does that happen? Because as you go back, and I've told you what every single day of the 12 days represents, we know on the first day, our true love, our God, who loves us so much that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth on him should not perish but have everlasting life. He gave us a partridge. He gave us Christ in a pear tree representing a cross. And then on the second day, we got 2 turtle doves. And remember what those represented? The Old and New Testament. But we got 2 turtle doves and a partridge in a pear tree. So every single day, we never lose a gift. So yes, you did end up with 12 partridges in a pear tree by the end. By the time we get to these 12 drummers drumming, we got all kinds of stuff going on in this field of gifts, these gifts of glory. So when you add each day's gifts up cumulatively, then by day 12, by the eve of Epiphany, or the end of Advent and Christmastide, we end up with 364 gifts. And then if we culminate that into Epiphany, that gives us a gift for every single day of the year. The hidden truths in stories is why our seconds of solidarity are so sacred, and we will be so successful when we create synergistic symbiotics. Because when we come together in a symbiotic fashion, we now can stand in solidarity. This post is only 13 minutes, 13 seconds. And we can change everything that's going on the face of this planet. And whoa, are there some things going on? Not just in whatever country you're in, not whatever country I'm in. There are global things going on that need the citizens of the globe to stand in solidarity and demand safety, peace, and justice. How do we get that? By finding the 1% of 100%. If we disagree on 99%, let's find the 1% and give it 100%. And even if we disagree on 99.99% of the things, my challenge to you, my ask of you, is that we find that 0.01% and give it 100%. That 0.01% that we can agree on. Do we agree that the global creation deserves safety, peace, and justice? If so, then let's give 100%. And you know what I say about that 0.01%. Don't you ever count 0 out, because 0 never represents nothing, because it's always up to something. So make sure that you delve in and know what the 0 is up to, because 0 could fool around and be the hero. Isn't that something? Just a change in perspective. And when we give that 1, that indivisible number, and we give it 2 zeros, do you know that that makes 100%? And if we give 100% and say, I'm standing for 15 seconds with the original Queen Time Machine. I am standing for 16 seconds with Dr. Brenda B. I'm standing with my mother, with my father, with my sister, with my brother, with my grandmama, with my granddaddy, with my aunts, with my uncles, with my colleagues, with my friends, and even with my enemies, because my enemies might be my frenemies, but they might just be my friends. And even if they're not, by the time we all come together and we get 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20 seconds together where we are standing and demanding safety, peace, and justice. What an epiphany. I hope you have enjoyed this day of manifestation, this day of new beginnings, this day of seeing the supernatural in the realm of the natural, this day of hope and sunshine in a time that can otherwise seem dark and bleak. It's an epiphany, y'all, and we got it. Thank you for an opportunity for 12 days of stories and gifts, for days of celebrating. Only enough oil to burn one day's, yet it burned for 8. For recognizing that blood has been shed, that people represent black, but that the green represents the earth, and making sure there's no room in the end, there's no room in the end. Oh, but if I knew it was you, I would already let you in. So the epiphany is, after all of that, we can stand in solidarity and we can change this world. Thank you for hanging out with me, and thank you for allowing me to not be so long, because I ain't really that strong, but I got more strength because of you. We're going to keep on going because now we got other stuff to look forward to. So I also wanted to get on here to let you know there are other things up and coming. It's only day 6. But day 6 gives us the power of male and female, cat, dog, monkey, gorilla, and for me, koala and kangaroo. And my 2 guys, who I call Zachary and Zoriah, because God recalled and remembered, and He is life. So whoever your furry friends, feathered friends, reptilian friends, whatever kind of friends that you may have, your plants, your friends. Now, I will say this as I close. Let me disclose. My mother has so many plants in our house, and I got some siblings that might be watching that might be able to give an amen. I was given the responsibility to take care of those plants. There were plants everywhere. My mother had philodendrons and mother-in-law tongues everywhere in our entire house, and there was a milk and butter solution that had to be made, and every single leaf on every single plant had to not only be milked and nurtured, they had to be talked to. So if I get a little you come to my house, you ain't gonna be seeing all them live plants, because I did that when I was a little girl. But what my mother knew in her wisdom was that they would not only bring life, not only deliver extra oxygen, but that they also fed off of positivity. So I did research and I got old, and I got a TED Talk that the only reason it's not out there is because I had a life event right when I was getting ready to deliver it. But it was about this whole thing of doing the research of how you deal with plants and how you speak to them and the difference it makes. And guess what? All conditions being the same, the plants that you talk to, the plants that you deliver love, they grow larger, stronger. They live longer. Now, flowers, we cut them off and we put them in water. And when we put flowers and we give them away, we know that they're temporary because we've removed them from the earth. So I'm asking you to rededicate your earth to positivity, because it's time for us to grow and to soar. Thank you, Irma Lee Davis Cole. You knew what you was doing, and I was obedient when I had no clue. And now I know the power of positivity. Won't you help me do it? It's just me, the original Queen Time Machine, out here representing the kingdom time zone, because it's God's clock and creation's watch, and I'm watching with you, and I want to thank you for standing in solidarity with me. So I'm at 21 minutes. That's only 21 seconds, and I'm asking you for stand and shout to the housetop that we plan on being bigger, better, bolder, and most importantly, united for positive change in a world that we've been graced to pass by for just a few clock ticks that we get to call life. I love you. It's always only until soon. Thank you for the epiphany. Thank you for the traditions. Thank you for spending time with me. Until soon, agape and shalom. And those who believe it, pray for me as I'm praying for you, that we will be who we have been created to be for such a time as this. I love you.